As the head of DHS, Secretary Mayorkas has a lot on his plate. He has to deal with immigration and the border, but also his agency is responsible for helping businesses protect themselves from being hacked. Just had a major hack that shut down a pipeline, for example. He also is in charge of protecting airports, being part of the counterterrorism mission, keeping bombs off planes. And he also has to think about the emerging threat of domestic violent extremism in the wake of the insurrection at the Capitol building. So there's a lot of hot issues that are coming to his desk right now.
We asked him about the border and how he is handling the situation there. He went to the Rio Grande Valley and talked about how the number of children that had been in Border Patrol facilities had decreased drastically from April.
First of all, the Border Patrol station is no place for a child. So our immediate responsibility is get them out of the Border Patrol station as quickly as possible and into the shelter and care of the Department of Health and Human Services. We have dedicated more than 300 asylum and refugee officers to assist in case management, to contract the time that a child is in HHS custody before unification with the parent or legal guardian here in the US. We refuse to say that we will not reunite all the families, and we are committed to reuniting the families as fast as we can. We recognize, number one, that we're dealing with records that we are only now bringing some level of completeness and order to. They were a complete shambles. We're dealing with such intangibles as individuals' reluctance to come forward, to be reunited. We have trust deficits to overcome by reason of the cruelty of the past. And quite frankly, some people are hard to find.
What do you say to parents considering sending their children across the border right now?
Don't do it.
Why not?
The border is not open. The danger of the journey is so extraordinarily acute, and we are building alternatives, legal pathways to assess the eligibility of individuals to actually receive relief under US law, and don't risk your children's lives, and they are at risk in the hands of smugglers. Don't do it.
Secretary Mayorkas is the first immigrant who was born overseas, came to the US as a child to take on the role of leading this department. He was born in Cuba, came with his family after the rise of Fidel Castro's communist government, and he brings a different perspective to the job and a different perspective to the department because of that family background that he has.
My first interview as a federal government employee in the Obama administration, the reporter, the first question I got was, so you used to be Cuban, and then she asked me a question which I didn't even hear because I was stuck on the preamble. Am I no longer Cuban? Do we lose our past based on where we are now?
What'd you say?
I said that's just, no, I haven't lost that. I'm a Cuban American. I'm a United States citizen. I'm not a citizen of Cuba, but I haven't lost my heritage. I think my family's experience and my own influences my judgment, influences my perspective on the world, on life, and on addressing the needs of the American public and the needs of the migrants and the decisions we make. It's who I am.
I mean, some are calling for you to ignore criminal histories in making deportation decisions. You know, given the pattern of racially biased policing in sort of some cities in the country. I mean, will you consider ignoring criminal convictions in deportation decisions?
Brian, when you ask that question, do you mean ignoring them entirely? Or factoring them into the decision in the exercise of discretion? And you can see by my response, which I put in question form, my answer, which is no, we will not ignore criminal history, but we will evaluate criminal history in determining whether an individual poses a public safety threat. I don't expect there to be unanimity of view with respect to the guidelines that I ultimately promulgate.
Do you believe that Russia was involved at all in the attack on the pipeline?
There's no evidence to suggest that it was at this point. The evidence suggests that it was criminal conduct.
Do you feel like you have a handle on internal threats inside the department when it comes to violent extremists?
So that presupposes the existence of violent extremists within the department, as distinguished from ideologies that I might find offensive, but that individuals are, of course, free to hold. Our obligation, and my obligation as the leader of this department, is to ensure that we do not have violent extremists within our ranks, because that speaks of a connection between an ideology and the violence that it might breed. That's our responsibility, and that's why I directed the internal review that I did.
DHS deployed federal agents to quell protests during civic unrest last summer. Do you think that was an appropriate use of agency resources?
I think that agency resources can be deployed according to authorities of delegation to assist the Federal Protective Service in protecting federal property and people on federal property. I think that is appropriate. Whether they have the appropriate training, the appropriate equipment, whether they are employ the appropriate tactics in addressing that responsibility is a separate question. And quite frankly, we are reviewing and revising substantially the training protocols, the equipment protocols, and the tactics.
Do you think the way that DHS officials acted in the Portland protests last summer hurt the reputation of the department?
Yes.
What are you doing to restore trust in the department? So as a result of that specific incident.
Oh yeah, because I was about to say the work that I am doing every gosh darn single day. I work really, really hard.
It's hereditary for you.
Really, really. Well, how does one not work incredibly hard in this job or as an assistant U.S. attorney? How does one not work this hard? I mean, I don't. That's just from a point of view of responsibility, as well as opportunity, to execute responsibility really, really well. Justice is a very individualized determination, and ultimately, it rests or depends upon the hands in whom it rests.